This is episode 142. We are going to be talking about vitality, so let's dig in together. Welcome to Wellness in Every Season, the podcast where we explore the rich tapestry of wellness in all of its forms. I'm your host, Autumn Carter, a certified life coach turned wellness coach, as well as a certified parenting coach dedicated to empowering others to rediscover their identity in their current season of life. My goal is to help you thrive both as an individual and as a parent. Today I have with me Deborah Zucker from Vital Medicine, and she is talking about the steps to vitality, and we're going to be talking about her own journey, and she has quite a journey to get here. She is a doctor, so it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays together. I've been interviewing a lot of doctors lately, and it's very interesting to hear about the burnout, the health challenges related to that. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much for being on and for talking about something that is near and dear to my heart. Vitality, wellness, it all goes together. So thank you. And can we get started by giving listeners a background of who you are?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Deborah Zucker. I'm a naturopathic physician, a therapist, coach, and author. And I live in Bellingham, Washington with my husband and almost 5-year-old daughter. Just to give a little background of how I've ended up here talking to you all. I'm 50 now, and in my early 20s, I spiraled down into a deep chronic fatigue and depression and lots of other symptoms. That journey of healing has informed my life since then. It began as a very physical orientation of trying to figure out, get diagnoses, what's going on, and then dropped into more of a mental emotional exploration. That was really feeling like the answers I was getting from the doctors didn't feel like they were really speaking to the depth of what I was actually experiencing. Then that dropped into a deeper, more spiritual journey. The intersection of all of those led me to a calling in my life to become a doctor, to become a therapist and coach. My own healing journey has paralleled all those trainings that I've had. It's been a process of self-discovery, of exploring what am I learning for myself that really has had the biggest impacts on my own vitality and well-being, and what am I seeing is really missing from the conversation, what's missing from the trainings that I've had, what's missing in the bigger conversation around health and wellness. That has guided my own business, Vital Medicine, all the programs that I offer, and the books that I've written.
I almost interrupted and said, "That's all you do?"
I know.
That's it. That's such a small amount. Wow, you do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And what I love about everybody that I've had on my podcast has had some kind of journey. And it's while they're healing themselves that they turn around and heal other people, which I think is so cool. And if you guys have not seen a picture of her or are not watching through YouTube, you need to look at her. I look older than she does, and she's older than me. So that should right there tell you when you're living the right lifestyle for you is how I really should say it. And you feel in alignment and you're really taking care of yourself, you have that youthful glow. And it makes a huge difference. So you said this is where it sounds like this is a accumulation of decades of experience for you, this book that is coming out. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's amazing. There's so many times where you hear about people who are overnight successes, and I'm saying this in quotes if you're not watching, because it really is a lifetime of experience that has led to this moment where people are now noticing, and that's very much for you. Let's go ahead and dive in to your 9 keys here, and what are they? And give us that little behind the curtains view from what your book is going to be talking about.
Yeah. The 9 Keys to Deep Vitality. So actually, I have 2 books. One that came out in 2016, The Vitality Map. And that goes into depth into my journey and the 9 keys and the journeys of various clients that I've worked with over the years, that's the fuller, more comprehensive orientation to these 9 keys that I'll introduce. What I have coming out in September is the Vitality Journal, which is a companion book to that, which allows a very personal deep dive with prompts and practices to get right into your own journey with the 9 keys. So these 9 keys came, like I said, from my own journey, distilling out what are the missing pieces. And I really look at these as the foundational place, the deeper orientation to our relationship with ourself and how we guide and care for our own well-being. And it starts with key number 1, honoring your unique life. And this key is really about being in direct relationship with our own mortality, with the preciousness of life, like waking up to realizing like none of us have any idea how many days, weeks, years we have left in this body. And to shift our orientation of care for ourselves to that remembrance, that recognition that, wow, like I have the opportunity to be alive in this body in this lifetime. And I want to really take ownership of that and steward this body and being as best I'm able for this life, because no one here but me is here to do that. And to bring that into more of a front and center awareness to our everyday living, whether it's loved one dies or we have a near death experience or in an accident and everything goes flashing before us. And we remember how precious it all is and how much our life matters. And then that might stay present for us for a couple weeks or a month, and then it drops away again. And so this key is about how do we really bring that back every single day to remember and to have root our relationship with self-care there. And that can take a deeper foundational shift to live from that place.
A sample of what we can add to our daily practice to help us get there.
Yeah. I had a practice years ago that each and every day I would ask myself the question, if I were to die today, would I feel complete? And that question just brought it right there. Yeah, I could die today. And what it evoked for me was as a remembrance. Oh, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait to tell the people I love them. I don't want to put off the things that matter most. I don't want to just be going through the motions of life. I want to really be here and be present. So that's one example. And there's lots of other meditation practices and things that we can do, but simply put a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror that you see when you wake up. Hey, this is my one precious life. Just whatever it is that helps to spark that remembrance, but have it be front and center and really cultivate that awareness. Yeah.
It's not totally what you're saying, but it's reminding me of my braces that, if you're watching, you get to see. I did not need it for superficial reasons. I did it because my molars, so you'd never see it if I was smiling, but my molars in the back were caved in on one side. I plan on having these teeth for the rest of my life, and I plan on living for a very long time, and I want to be able to chew from all sides of my mouth. So I can afford this now. I'm taking care of this now. And it's also affording it time-wise with 4 kids,
Right.
where I now have a little more of that time where I could be going regularly to the orthodontist. But it was that idea too of, okay, my intention is to live as close to 100 as possible. I don't think I want to get over that threshold. I want to be mentally here for my whole life.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do for that? And then you never mentioned it, but just the word using unique it's my life and it should be aligned to what lights me up and feels right for me. It's not my child's life. It's not this person who I'm looking at with the fear of missing out or any of those ways that we minimize ourselves or we control our children. So that really came to mind for me. And when I have asked my question, do I feel complete? I never do because I want to help more people. I want to reach more people. So it's that, okay, I need to be doing more for this. So I really like that.
Mm.
What's next?
Yes. There's so much more I could say about what you just said too.
Or
No, just quickly about the uniqueness, because I didn't mention that. So that really is an acknowledgement that there's never been or will ever be another you or me. To really recognize that you're not here by accident. You are an expression of life that matters.
For me, it was when I was 21, and I'm very good at organizing, and I was around somebody else who's even better. And that was my identity at that time, like one of my identities. We always have several going on. So it was, wait, I'm not as unique anymore. So
Mm,
I like that because we do come across people that think of ourselves as that Venn diagram with the things that we're good at, our interests, everything else, how they overlap. If we come across somebody else who has a very similar Venn diagram of who they are, it's
mm,
remembering that we are still unique. We are not exactly like them. So
yeah.
I really like that, especially if we've grown up in a family where you're always told you're exactly like this person. No, you're
Mhm,
not.
mhm. No, no, no one. We're all unique. So, key number two, just to keep moving on, is facing and embracing your shadows. And this one, I have it as key number two because it's absolutely essential and it's missing from the conversation so often. So, if you have had in your journey of self care a feeling of shame or self judgment because it just seems like you keep tripping yourself up, or you have all these intentions and you just can't actually manifest them or catalyze them or make them happen, or you only last a few days and then stop. Just those kinds of patterns, the sabotage, the judgment comes from our shadows. And what I mean by shadows are parts of ourselves that are not fully conscious. So they're living in our unconscious, but they're running the show. And they're born from traumas, woundings, what was modeled for us, even intergenerationally, that things get passed on to us. And we're operating from them and not even realizing that we're operating from them. And so having the courage, because it does take courage to turn towards these parts, to get some support and learn how to see and then lovingly and with kindness embrace and integrate those parts of ourselves that have been disowned, that have been shoved down into the deep, dark basement that we haven't wanted to see about ourselves or really acknowledge, and own them as part of our humanity, as part of who we are, the mix and the complexity of being human. And when we do that, it frees us up to actually be able to move forward with the intentions, with the desires and visions we have for ourselves. And it's not like you do it and then you're done. This is a lifelong practice of getting to know those parts and weaving them in. But I cannot emphasize enough like how essential and powerful that is. And I'm so grateful that these days there's more and more talk about this and more resources, whether it's with a therapist, with a coach. Like a lot of people are getting trained to do parts work, to begin to integrate these parts that are unconscious.
I reached a plateau in my own healing journey.
Yeah.
I was doing EMDR with a therapist, and I was just not getting further. And I became friends with somebody who is a somatics coach, and she took me on, and all of those walls that were up, they were gone. It made a huge difference. I'm a huge advocate for because
Mm,
of it. And now I use that with my clients. I sprinkle it in little
mhm.
bits. It makes a huge difference.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little taste of key two. There's a lot more to it, but yeah, just to give it more of an overview today. Key number three is strengthening your self awareness muscles. And, all of what I'm talking about feel like it belongs in the category of basic life skills that most of us were never taught, things that weren't modeled for us, that weren't normalized. And this one to me feels like that we didn't grow up, most of us, learning to become more aware of the feedback that's in our body and being all the time. That's pointing towards what brings us alive, what brings us more vitality, how to thrive, and what does not. And so it's like a language we haven't learned. And so this key is about learning that language, becoming more curious and intimate with what's actually going on. And through experimentation, through just a deeper listening and wondering and curiosity, we can come to feel more empowered and really own that each of us is our own best health guide, because no one else is living in this body and being 24/7. Like, we're the ones. And so, yes, we need to seek out professional support and guidance and expertise, but we're the ones who have the data to provide. Like, we're the ones who are living with this. And we can then filter the guidance we receive from others through our own self-knowing as we cultivate and strengthen the self-awareness. Like, when we haven't really developed that self-awareness, we might get into a pattern of feeling really tired during the day. And so we interpret that feedback, oh, I need to do something to boost my energy. So we drink caffeine. And then we get in this cycle of needing the caffeine to get through the day, not realizing that our sleep is really disrupted because we're sensitive to caffeine. That's just like one example. But when we really hone that awareness, we can get more to the root of what's going on and discern that for ourselves so that we can guide ourselves towards our thriving with more skillfulness and self-knowing.
I like that. There are so many different ways that we perpetuate that cycle.
Yes. Yeah, so many ways. And again, it's like a language we haven't learned. So we just do what we've been taught. We take a painkiller for a headache, not realizing that there's something that we've been doing to contribute to that headache that if we bring awareness to it, we can shift that behavior, that pattern.
That's very Western way of
Yeah.
thinking of, let's not look at the root cause, but we're just going to quickly cover that up. Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I love it.
So key 4 is cultivating resilience. And this one, first, I just want to acknowledge what resilience is and why it's so important. Um, there is no such thing as a stress-free or predictable life. Like, just the nature of life is that it's constantly changing. Like, we may get our act together and feel like, oh, we've dialed it in, like we're doing really well, we're feeling really alive. And then something happens in our life and it's like the rug gets pulled out from underneath us and we fall flat on our face. And that's just life, right? That's just going to keep happening. So to let go of any ideal or myth that we're going to get to some point where that's no longer going to happen, that's not the case. Like, life is just like that. And so resilience is developing the capacity to move with life in that way, to move with the stress, to find our way back to center, find our way back to a more vital, alive place in the midst of whatever's going on in life. And that, I feel like that's it's more and more true today with just things amping up and seeming crazier and crazier in the world we're living in. Stress, it's an overwhelm is just there. So how do we regulate ourselves? How do we learn the skills to bring our nervous system back to a calmer, grounded place? How do we learn the skills to nourish our bodies with what actually is a good fit for this unique body and being? How do we learn what the best types of movement or alignment or practitioners to seek out is for us? It's not about creating a long to-do list of all the things we're supposed to learn or do, but fundamentally it's about really taking that self-awareness that we've been cultivating and taking ownership of being in charge. Okay, like, I want to learn more capacities and skills to be able to guide myself, to be able to find my feet again when the rug gets pulled out, to calm myself in the midst of chaos. I think being able to regulate our nervous system is one of the most important skills of resilience that I think there is. And there's so many things that we can do that are really simple and weave them throughout the day. It doesn't need to be like carving out a big chunk of time to set aside to deal and attend to these things. The key is finding the things that work for us throughout our full lives.
For me, I've been thinking a lot about how there are times where this thing works and times where that thing just does not work to fit
Yeah.
my need to feel balanced and in alignment. Sometimes meditation is amazing, but when I have too much going on in my head, that's not what I need. What I need is a body scan or different things.
Uh-huh.
So I really like what you're talking about finding where you feel calmly alive and how it can look different and how when we are taking care of ourselves, we can more easily go with the flow when things change because that is the thing in life. Things change. We're all evolving. We're all changing our outlook on life. We're growing, developing, aging. So things are constantly in that motion. And when we're taking care of ourselves, we can better go with the motion.
Our lives are not static. Our world is not static.
That would not be a
Heck,
show I'd watch.
no. Yeah. And like you said, things might work really well for a certain time in our life, or even last week it might work well and this week it might not. And so just, yeah, really not getting stuck and thinking things need to look a certain way and opening up to that resilience of flexibility and adaptability. Yeah.
We've all had people in our lives, family members in particular, because we tend to be closer with them, where they are just stuck in this is the way it is, this is the way you have to behave around me, everything else. It's like a burr in the gears. It just doesn't flow well, it doesn't move well, however you say it. Those cogs don't move correctly. Is I think the best way to say that. And when we're not remembering that we're allowed to grow and change, and so is somebody else, it makes a big difference. Either direction, whether you're doing it or not doing it.
Yes. Aligning with the nature of life. Yeah.
Okay.
Aligning with your yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. And this one was really huge for me in my own healing journey. And again, just was one of those missing pieces that I discovered. Like none of the practitioners I was going to was really bringing attention to how vital it is that my life energy was really being invested where I was getting returns. And this, I see this all the time. And it's like right now, we have an epidemic of depression, anxiety. And I think this piece can be a big part of that for folks, where, yeah, just our lives, if we're not devoting our lives to what is actually truly aligned for our unique self, then it's like we're pouring our life energy down a hole in a bucket and we're losing it. Whereas if we actually align with what really brings us alive, it's like we get to fill our own well as we're serving, as we're giving our energy, as we're devoting ourselves to what we're attending to in our lives. This goes to the little things every day and to the big pursuits, the big investments in our life. And right there with the yes is the no. Aligning with your yes is also about really being clear about your authentic no's. And I like to bring forward the analogy of pruning for this. If you think of a fruit tree, if you never pruned it, it wouldn't produce fruit. And it would put all its energy into these sucker branches that go straight up and don't produce any fruit, but they can get really big and tall. And same for us. If we don't prune our own life, if we don't have the courage to do the little snips or the bigger cuts, and our life energy is going out into these branches that it's not actually producing any fruit, it's not allowing us to flourish and thrive, yeah, then our tree is not going to be thriving. Pruning, yeah, saying no, finding that authentic no along with your authentic yes, absolutely vital for our well-being.
That made me think about how many times we are just so busy but we're not doing the things that actually matter to us.
Yeah.
Right there. And then I've been on this soapbox myself recently. And in my personal life, just really thinking about it before I really present it to my audience, but how much taking care of ourselves helps increase our wealth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts related to our how we feel about money and
Mm.
money in our bank account versus how we're taking care of ourselves? Money part.
Mhm. Yeah,
Choose
I
one. I
guess,
don't care.
yeah, I guess what comes up for me first and foremost, yeah, I'll speak to the money part in a sec, but just it brings me back to what we talked about with key number one. Like, this is your one life. This is a precious life. Have the courage, get the support to really align with what brings you alive. Live the life you're here to live. And to me, like the money side of it, it's like that's an energy expression. If we're really aligned with who we're here to be and we're saying yes, part of that yes is saying yes that we receive the supports, the material things we need to really shine and be alive. That's part of thriving in life, is that we receive what we need to be able to be the fullest self that we're here to be. And that's not about a certain number money wise. Wealth looks very different for different people, but it is about saying yes to, mm, yeah, living your fullest life and having that material and wealth support to allow for that.
I've coached people, I've had family members that are so busy chasing that dollar that they're not taking care of themselves. And it's easy to forget when we're younger or when we're so stressed out, we're not thinking, we have those blinders on, that when we aren't taking care of ourselves, we are taking out a debt against our own health. And
Yeah.
eventually we're going to fall flat on our face or flat on our back in bed. And we really need to take care of ourselves so that we can get out
Mhm.
there, be aligned. And when we are living our purpose, especially if it's our calling related to a vocation,
Mhm.
sometimes it's a side hustle that turns into a full-time thing or the main paying thing. When that happens, that money comes more easily. We are taking care of our health at the same time as gaining more money. So that's one thing that I was thinking about. And it sounds like that's what happened for you.
Yeah, thank you for expressing it like that. And it's flipping it around. I think in our culture, there can be such a focus on the external and getting, and you need to work in a certain way to get. But actually, if you flip it around and come from starting here inside of what's really aligned, what brings us alive, and working from that place, then it's like they both get to grow together. And burnout, depression, anxiety, chronic fatigue, those are just rampant these days because there is this sort of externalization of going after something without having it really be rooted in that own commitment to our well-being, to be filling our well as we go. Yeah. Key six is experimenting with playful curiosity.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah,
I
I love
love signing
it.
up.
See, that response often when I say this one, it's almost like I can visually see like the burden being lifted, the weight being coming off, and a little playfulness or giggle. Because, yeah, this one is about taking the seriousness out of health and self care, taking the burden away, taking the rule book out. Because I think part of what can happen that keeps people stuck is that they think it needs to look a certain way and they have a long list of all the things that they're supposed to be doing to take care of themselves, which creates this sense of burden and then ignites those parts of ourselves that can get really mean, critical, self-judgmental. Yeah, they're not doing it right. You're not doing it well enough. And the shame that goes along with that. So this key, again, it gets back to what we were talking about a bit before of the nature of life, of constantly changing and being dynamic, and that we're all evolving as we grow. This key aligns with that by saying, let's experiment. Let's learn as we go. Let's try things out, see what happens, and then steer from there. So we learn from it. So we create an experiment for a couple of weeks. Doing yoga every morning right after you get up. Do some sun salutations, do something as part of the rhythm. So you set this intention, you set some parameters around it, and you try it out for 2 weeks. And then you notice, like, how do I feel when I do that? How do I feel when I don't do that? How did that fit into the flow of my day? Was I able to do it every day or not? What got in the way? And then you learn from it, and then you do your next experiment. So rather than thinking like you have this goal and you need to stick with it and that's it gets very narrow and black and white. The goal becomes flexible and adaptable and dynamic. We get to learn as we go and have fun with it. So also part of creating the experiments is be fun, have fun, get playful, do something new and different that you've never done before. Mix together different kinds of nourishment. I like to think of, okay, can I get 3 different kinds of nourishment in one experiment? Going for a walk with a friend every week. So I get nature nourishment, I get social nourishment, I get movement nourishment all in one. And oftentimes with those kinds of forms of experiments, the buy-in is much bigger and it's much easier to sustain.
I love when things are stacked like that.
Yeah.
It always lights me up when I find a way to do that. And
Yeah.
that makes me think about how, for me, part of my self-care, I really thrive on having a network, which is why podcasting is perfect for me.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, for instance, we are doing Ladies Night Out. I co-host it once a month. And we are going on a scavenger hunt around our city. We are learning our city more. And the downtown area has the coolest vibe ever. So it's going to be downtown. There will be food involved, which food is totally my love language.
Yeah.
And I get to be around other women, get to meet other women. A friend of mine who co-hosts with me, she always invites a variety of people, which is super fun. I want to be like her when I grow up. She's younger than me, I think, or a year older. I can't remember. But anyway, just that idea of I'm increasing my social network. I'm moving. I get to try a random fun dessert while I'm downtown because they have tons of fun food. And I'm getting to know the city that I love more, deepen my roots there. So that's exactly what you're saying. And it makes the child in me very happy. And I don't spend enough time, my coach has even called me out on this. I don't spend enough time listening to my inner child or my inner teenager enough. I adult a little too hard in my life. So the child in me is very happy. The teenager who likes the connection with friends is also happy. So it's totally a win for me.
That's part of the language of playful in this key is how essential it is for us as adults to play.
And we
Again,
forget that.
culturally, it's programmed out of us, but it's so important to our state of vitality that we play. And what that looks like for all of us is different. But yeah.
Maybe that's our reminder. The kids get the summer, which that drains me with my kids at home. But that gives them the chance to play. So maybe I should be doing the same. And how much time do I need for that to put into my schedule? And maybe that needs to be a little bit more non-negotiable than it is. So that self-reflection question that I'm going to be asking myself, and I'm pretty sure some of you need that too.
Yes.
Enjoying together.
I think again, it's another thing that's pretty rampant. Key 7 connects in with key 6. So key 7 is discovering easeful discipline. And just noticing when I say that, so often the word discipline.
You said easeful?
Easeful. So bringing ease.
Together. Okay.
Yeah. So that's purposeful because it is very possible. So many of us have a relationship with discipline that's about being strict. Like even when I say the word, you might notice like discipline can cause a tightening up and a bracing. getting yourself ready for something that's going to be really hard. And that strict inner parent voice can really get triggered, or the self-judgmental or mean parts of ourselves can get really loud with discipline. And some of us react to that in a rebellious way. And some of us react to that of like, all right, I'm going to do it, but it's very stressful doing it. So easeful discipline, discovering easeful discipline is about being in that same playful, curious, experimental place, but adding in some clear commitment, some intelligent strategy, and structures of support. So being like, it's like coming from that place that we talked about before of like really having our own back, like really being there for ourselves and doing what it takes to create the changes that we seek in our lives. And we do need discipline because habit change takes a while. And the beginning of habit changes often has a transitional period that's uncomfortable. If you think of starting to exercise after you haven't for a few weeks or longer, there's that uncomfortable time, or the detox that happens when we stop taking in a substance or food that's really not doing well for our body. There's that transition time that's uncomfortable. So the discipline is what keeps us in the process moving forward when it's in that transitional time. It's peaceful. So it's looking at part of what trips us up often is we have these intentions and we jump into creating these changes, but we haven't really looked at the realities of our life and grounded what we're doing in those realities in an honest, clear way. And so we have these obstacles show up that get in the way. It's like the yoga in the morning example. Oh, sounds really good, but we have a little one at home who needs us to help them brush teeth and hair and get dressed. And so that time in the day actually isn't very realistic because they're wanting our attention while we're trying to do yoga. It's looking at it as, rather than obstacles, that there's other real needs that need our attention. And so shifting that orientation of, oh, like how can I attend to these needs and come up with a solution that works for everything? And support is absolutely vital. Having reminders for ourselves, having a relational support, which we'll talk about next, setting ourselves up where it's blocked out in our calendars. There's different ways that we can structure it into our lives that is supported rather than just trying to will ourselves into making a change happen.
What I've noticed for me and for people I've coached is there is so much, what is even the right wording? It's about falling off the wagon and getting back up is what really makes that change permanent. And it's
Mm-hmm.
remembering that you need to fail and then
Mm-hmm.
have that grit to get back. And oftentimes fail a few times. And then you're, okay, I've got this. I understand where I need to be. I understand how this needs to be. And that goes really well with what you're saying about yoga, is deciding, okay, do I need to wake up earlier than my child? If it's a newborn, maybe it needs to be during their nap schedule that ends up being all over the place. Where do I need to fit this in? When does it work for me? Maybe I need to be going to bed earlier. So I really like what you're talking about here about taking that time to be intentional, to check in, okay, what needs, and staying curious instead of judgmental, what needs to change? Okay, let me try this change and see if that works for now. And going back to a past key is realizing what works now isn't going to work in the future. So you're going to need to adjust again.
Yes. What you're speaking to is the learning as we go, like really letting go of even the idea of succeeding or failing. It's simply we're learning as we go and not expecting that we're going to set something up and all of a sudden it's going to be there for the rest of our lives. It's going to be a flow. There might be a lot of bumps at the beginning as we sort out how it works best for us at this time. And then things are going to change. And maybe that solution or practice doesn't work for us anymore.
Or we don't need it at that time because the kid's all grown up.
Key number 8 is inviting support and connection. And this one, it's key number 8, but it's actually the embrace that holds all of it. It's absolutely essential because as humans, we are relational creatures. We're just wired to thrive through connection and support. We're not meant to be on these journeys alone. We're not meant to feel isolated. So much of the shame and self-judgment that can happen in our journey of guiding ourselves in our vitality and well-being comes from that isolation. So when we find the practitioners to relate to one-on-one, or we find the communities, healing groups to come into, and we're able to be vulnerable and feel safe together and share the journeys and the ups and downs and what we're learning, it's like it catalyzes things at a level that just doesn't happen, can rarely happens on our own. So just really want to emphasize this key that, yeah, if you're not already finding some relational support for yourself in your journey, and particularly your self-care journey, please reach out and find that. I work primarily with women, and I'm a huge proponent of coming together in circle and being in groups. I love the one-on-one work too, but it just feels like it just touches into this primal place. And I just see the changes and the self-actualization happen at a level that's hard to compare. So
I think for anybody who's disagreeing with what you're saying, and that it's important to remember that if you haven't had trauma, it's really easy to connect with people. And if you have a hard time connecting with other people, it sounds like there's probably some trauma going on. If you find that you're safer when you're alone, so you'd rather be alone, what do you need to do to help heal that area of yourself so you can feel secure enough? Because one of what I feel like the biggest contributors to aging, especially premature aging, is not having those social connections. And we very much live in a time where we are very connected with phones and everything else, but we're not connected with people. And yes, I'm getting some of my needs met connection-wise, talking to Deborah right here, but it's not the same as if we were in the same room talking to each other. So really think about that. And if you are thinking of anybody else who needs to hear this, now is a great time to share. And remember that you're not supposed to do this alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing in the trauma lens too. And just acknowledgement, yeah, that it's not easy and it can take a lot of courage. And the other thing I want to share around that is discernment. So, absolutely essential when we're leaning in for relational support that we have discernment that it's the right connection or connections for us. Because, yeah, if we're not listening to that inner voice that's letting us know if this feels like a safe space or a safe person or not, then we could find ourselves actually entering into more trauma. So just really, yeah, trust yourself, trust your inner knowing, have the courage to say no if it's not the right fit, and trust that the right fit is out there. Again, whether it's one-on-one or group or. So the final key, we're up to the final key. Key number 9 is living like you matter. And
I like that.
yeah, this to me just brings it all full circle. So recognizing again our uniqueness, that none of us are here by accident. Each of us matters in this web of humanity. To live that way means prioritizing our own self-care and well-being, recognizing that we're not serving anyone if we're getting burned out, if we're depleting ourselves in our work or service in the world, or how we're tending as a parent or grandparent or whatever it is we're engaged with, that we need to prioritize filling our own well, starting with ourselves, that we matter. And that is what allows us to continue to show up in all of the love and care and service and work we're engaging with in the world. That's the foundation and absolutely essential. And yeah, to not put the needs of others before our own for that reason. We won't be able to be there for others if we're not attending ourselves.
And I know there's so many women that bristle with what you just said. But what I've noticed is when I am taking better care of myself, I'm a better parent.
Yes.
And my husband's even had to stand up for me because I started waking up earlier so I could have this time for myself to do my miracle morning routine. And then my two oldest decided to wake up 30 minutes early. That's fine. But then they started bothering me during my time. So they were getting offended that I was getting upset. And my husband finally had to, okay, let me put it this way. Different perspective, different person telling you after me complaining to him about it and him being like, no, I know how much you need that. It makes it, I notice when I'm yelling more, it's because I'm dysregulated and I need to do that check in with myself. What's going on here? And women, oh, we are so hard on ourselves, and we have society telling us that we need to be all these things and have a superhero cape while we're at it and be wearing high heels and makeup.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if we are taking care of ourselves, our children see it. They know that they need to also be taking care of themselves.
Yes.
I wonder what it's like to be a grandparent and see your children making the same mistake of sacrificing everybody else.
Yeah.
And now it's a different lens because you can see it. You're not the one in the thick of it. That must be so heartbreaking to see. They're doing exactly what I did. So it's one way to put it, but not in a guilt lens of I'm doing this for them as well.
Right. Yeah, which is what I was naming before of these basic life skills that most of us were never taught. If we're learning them for ourselves and putting that into action, if we're truly prioritizing our own well-being and having boundaries that we matter to, and our children or others in our lives get to see that. So it's like we're modeling it. And we're also, like you said, caring for ourselves to give ourselves that foundation of energy and vitality and well being that then shines out in the world with whoever it is we're engaging with and supporting and touching. And that matters. That expression of our vitality matters in the web of life, regardless of what your life circumstances are, or who you engage with, or where you're located. To trust that there's no accident that you're here. Each of us matters. And we don't often know the ripples that we're having in the world and the impact we're having. But the more vital we are, the more we shine out and the more those ripples really can have a positive impact in our world. And I would say a world in need of that.
And I love how you talked about how it can be important to reach out to a therapist, a life coach, a friend who's done it the way that looks right to you to get advice and to make it your own, because we are the sum of the 8 people that we spend the most time with. So if you don't have those people, you can find somebody who works in that. And that's when you find a coach. That's when you find a therapist. And they can help hold you accountable. They can help ask the right questions. And because they're not your friend, they won't give you the BS answers. So I really like how you added that part in too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else as we start to wrap up?
That completes an overview of the 9 keys. Like I said, I have the new companion book coming out. So if you found these 9 keys to be helpful for you, there's the original book, The Vitality Map, audiobook, as well as paperback or ebook. And then the companion book is a journal that you can just write into with different prompts and questions that will just engage you right away with what's true for you in your life, what might need to be uncovered or explored to allow these principles to really land and begin to manifest, and how you're moving through your days and how you're creating that foundation of really having your own back and supporting your own well-being as number one priority of how you move through life.
I love that. And the link to it is in the description, and it should be out right now or coming out within the
Right.
week,
When
timing
this
wise.
airs.
So
Yeah.
pick up a copy, give it to friends, share this episode with other people, because She is doing this to reach more people and to help heal, which my type of person right there.
Yes. And I also just want to acknowledge too, and this will be in the show notes, that I created a landing page just for podcast listeners that offers a free download of a worksheet for the 9 keys and a 15% discount on any of my programs and offerings. So if you're curious to explore, go to that page as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for those who don't want to look at the description, tell us where to find you.
Yeah, I'm at vitalmedicine.com. You can just go to my webpage.
Thank you so much for being on and for sharing all of this with us today.
Thank you, Autumn. Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I am your host, Autumn Carter, a certified life coach dedicated to empowering individuals to rediscover their identity, find balance amidst chaos, strengthen relationships, and pursue their dreams. My goal is to help people thrive in every aspect of their lives. I hope today's discussion inspired you and offered valuable insights. Stay engaged with our wellness community by signing up for my newsletter at wellnessineveryseason.com/free resources. When you join, you'll have the option to receive a 5-day guide called Awaken and Unwind. 5 days to mastering your mornings and evenings, along with free guides, special offers on my programs, practical tips, personal stories, and much more, all related to wellness, by signing up for both offers on the page. Don't miss out on these valuable resources designed to help you thrive in every area of wellness. Join today and start your journey to wellness in every season. Your shares, subscriptions, and reviews help us reach more people seeking empowerment. So please spread the word about our podcast and about our newsletter. Thank you for being a part of our podcast community. I look forward to continuing our conversation, sharing stories, and exploring wellness in all of its aspects. Take care until our next episode. You can also work with me one-on-one or on demand through one of my programs by visiting wellnessineveryseason.com/programs. One last thing to cover the show legally. I am a certified life coach giving general advice. So think of this more as a self-help book. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, so this podcast shouldn't be taken as a replacement for professional guidance from a doctor or therapist. If you want personal one-on-one coaching from a certified life and parenting coach, go to my website, wellnessinneveryseason.com. That's where you can get personalized coaching from me for you. See you in next week's episode.